Now, it's fairly obvious to you, my audience, that capitalism is going to go into another crisis. It always does. That's the very nature of capitalism, is that it's crisis prone. But the big question as of late has been, when is that next crisis going to take place? Well, even mainstream economists like Paul Krugman. Now, he's usually their go-to guy. The bourgeoisie generally see him as, the guy that they go to when they're tired of deluding themselves. Not to say that Keynesianism is right, but among the bourgeoisie, he's the guy that they go to when they need to be told the truth and don't want to live by their own delusions anymore. Now, even he's saying that another recession is coming and that it's going to be worse than the one in 2008. And this seems to be the general consensus among the more popular economists, that there is another crisis coming. Now, they're really concerned about this is because they don't really have any way of actually dealing with it. One, the government can't afford any more bailouts. Second, the interest rates are already at near zero. So what exactly are they supposed to do if this comes? Now, dealing with another crisis is a different subject than saying that this next one is coming. That would be a separate video. Basically, what they're saying is that everything is in a bubble. The typical credit kind of bubble, or artificially inflated prices, value, etc. And that this is on track to become worse than it was for the collapse happened in 2008. The student loan debt now surpasses the $1.5 trillion mark. Corporate debt in America has doubled, and there's a general trend of that across the developed world. U.S. consumers are about $13 trillion in debt. That we're talking like a combination of mortgages and general credit, like credit cards, etc. There is a massive worldwide financial meltdown, such as never before, to use their own words, that's scheduled for the mid-2020s. Now, even two of the largest, oldest companies in the world, General Motors and General Electric, which started in about 1890-something, and General Motors, which started in 1908, they are now going through massive restructuring. Now, we just saw this in Oshawa, Ontario. We saw how a plant was closed, 3,500 wage employees and 300 salaried employees were laid off. The company is laying off about 14,000 employees. Now, this restructuring is going to cost the company an estimated $3.8 billion. That's right. To cut back production, it's going to cost them $3.8 billion because the company is already loaded with debt. Now, here's the best part. Does General Motors have $3.8 billion lying around? No. So they have to borrow. That's right. They have to borrow in order to restructure, in order to get everything back together again, which it's starting to look like they're actually not going to do. They're actually in a great deal of trouble. Now, if General Electric and General Motors were in... them being in this bad a position certainly runs against the mainstream narrative that everything is fine and Trump made the economy great again, all that other, garbage that he spouts, and that everything is peachy keen and everything is so wonderful. Yet if that's true, then why are these two companies responsible for a huge part of the world economy essentially in trouble, and admitting it and having to cut as a result and borrow to cut, even though they're already loaded with debt? So we've got that locked down. But now here's another thing. At the same time, we also have another housing crisis building. Yeah. I'm doing help us one. So home prices are beginning to unwind a historic spike. The index is now below where it had been in April. This confirms that the inflection point when the average direction changes was in July, and that conditions have deteriorated since. Now, we saw what happened last time there was a kind of a housing crisis like this. But essentially, back then, during the original crisis, housing prices skyrocketed because of cheap money, cheap credit that was being flooded into the market and being given to people that either they knew were high risk or just in general trying to get that out there. And then what happened was they had given out all this credit, and then there was no corresponding increase in the creation of value, that being, like wage labor jobs, that would fill that fictitious credit, that fictitious value that is credit. So, essentially, the exact same thing is happening again, but perhaps on an even larger scale right now. And that kind of shows the absolute absurdity of capitalism, the absurdity of the market. So we have, 4 empty homes for every homeless person. Home prices are dropping, yet rents are going up, and making it even more difficult to find a place to live. And there is a crisis of affordable housing, but at the same time, housing prices are crashing. So shouldn't the market say that would make it easier for people to buy a house because of that? No, because they already have difficulty buying a house as it is, and that's why the price is going down. I mean, this is just the complete absurdism of capitalism, how this whole, ridiculous system actually works. So we're running into another crisis, which even bourgeois economists are admitting, yeah, this is going to be a lot worse than the one we suffered through previously. This could be like an actual depression, a real serious thing. But they're not calling for that until the mid-2020s, so we'll have to wait and see what happens in the meantime. And even then, most of the tools that we already use now to fight crisis are already being used, so we don't even have those tools in the tool drawer to take out because they're already being used. So watch for that to come up very soon, and watch when this recession does certainly hit, and it's going to be bad. Watch the defenders of capitalism turn around and call this a simple market correction, or capitalism just doesn't do that. Now, it's also very interesting to point out that Keynesians have always claimed that they could stop these crashes from happening, and they have failed about 12 out of 13 times to stop it. Now, it's interesting that they say they have the fiscal tools necessary to stop these. And there's a point, once growth reaches a certain point, they can just stop it. It generally goes along a flat trend, and then there's a crash. That crash that they say they can prevent from happening, even though it keeps happening. So look for that out in the future. And in the meantime, I would suggest probably start saving now to try to deal with that kind of crisis. Or if you're generally a working class person and you can't save because it's not possible, well, I hope you think of something.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.